Halloween is fast approaching, and nothing sets the mood quite like a good horror film. Some people prefer physical horror, while others opt for a more psychological approach. No matter what type of horror you like, once the film is over, you can take comfort in knowing that what you saw was just a horror story. Number 5. 20-year-old Georgette Bowerdorf was living a dream life in the 1940s. Georgette was born in 1924 in New York City and was the daughter of a wealthy oil tycoon. Little did her family know that they would become the center of one of LA's most mysterious cases. Georgette never wanted or needed anything. Whatever she wanted, she got. During her childhood, her mother passed away and her father moved the family to Los Angeles, where Georgette enrolled in school. She wanted to be an actress and spend her time making friends with big Hollywood names in the hopes of making good connections. When she wasn't auditioning for roles or working on her acting skills, Georgette worked at the Hollywood Canteen and the Los Angeles Times. The Hollywood Canteen was a club specifically for enlisted men, and it provided them with entertainment, food, and dancing girls. It was at the Hollywood Canteen that Georgette met Jerome M. Brown in June of 1944. The pair had a somewhat short relationship, with Brown leaving California and heading to El Paso, Texas shortly after they had met. Georgette told friends that she and Brown were dating, and that they often wrote to each other. Georgette was determined to keep her relationship alive, and on October 11, 1944, she purchased an airline ticket to El Paso, Texas. Her friends reported that she was in good spirits and was eager to be reunited with her beloved. Sadly, that day would never come. Georgette spent the rest of the day shopping, having dinner with her father's secretary, before clocking in at the Hollywood Canteen. The night went along as usual, with soldiers asking Georgette for a dance. However, there was one soldier who particularly got under her skin that night. According to the girls who were working with Georgette that night, Georgette had become irritated by a soldier who insisted that they jitterbugged. Georgette politely declined as she preferred to waltz. However, every time she declined, the soldier became angrier and angrier. Eventually, Georgette accepted the dance and carried on with her evening. At around 11:15 p.m., she clocked out, headed to her car, and drove home. This was the last time that Georgette was ever seen alive again. The next morning, on October 12, 1944, a maid entered Georgette's apartment only to find Georgette laying face down in an overflowing bath. The coroner determined that Georgette had fiercely fought off her attacker and was subsequently covered in defensive wounds on her hands and arms. When analyzing the crime scene, investigators found that the automatic night light had been screwed in just enough so that it would not turn on if someone came to the door. Fingerprints were found on the bulb. However, this was in 1944, so their ability to cross-reference fingerprint records was very limited. It struck investigators as bizarre that whoever was responsible hadn't taken any of Georgette's personal belongings. According to reports, there was a trunk of sterling silver in the apartment, worth thousands of dollars that had remained untouched. Jewelry and other high-price items also remained in the apartment. The only thing the perpetrator took was $100 from Georgette's purse. Naturally, the investigation turned towards the servicemen that Georgette entertained on a nightly basis. Friends described Georgette as being very friendly and kind towards the servicemen, and seemed to have a soft spot for a few of them in particular. On the other hand, Georgette had just purchased a ticket to visit Brown in El Paso. She took her relationship seriously and was known to be a very conservative woman, so it's unlikely that Georgette asked a serviceman to accompany her back to the apartment. Whoever was responsible had likely lied in wait for Georgette and possibly followed her home from the Hollywood Canteen. Investigators ruled out robbery as a motive, and since 1944, Georgette's case has remained stone cold. Many have drawn parallels to the Black Dahlia case that occurred just a few years later, but this is just a theory and we don't really know much for sure. Number 4. 36-year-old Jeremiah Foco worked as a software engineer at Oracle in Bellevue, Washington, and by all accounts lived a relatively quiet and normal life in Seattle. Jeremiah grew up in Standish, Michigan, but moved to Washington for work, leaving behind his family and friends in search of a new life and new adventures. Details about Jeremiah's life are sparse, and the only information we have is in regards to his mysterious disappearance. On July 22, 2015, Jeremiah called his boss, telling him that he was coming into the office to get his laptop fixed. His boss waited and waited, but Jeremiah never arrived. After hours passed, his boss realized that something was wrong and contacted Jeremiah's family and law enforcement to let them know what was going on. Surveillance footage retrieved from the International District station that Jeremiah used to get to work showed a man resembling Jeremiah walking down the stairs carrying a backpack. Then, just as Jeremiah approaches the bottom of the steps to go into the tunnel, the footage glitches and Jeremiah is never seen again. Law enforcement have not confirmed whether the man in the CCTV footage is Jeremiah. His family and friends are adamant that it is him, though. Jocelyn, a friend of Jeremiah's, told Q13 Fox, quote, "It's nice to see him. We know he was okay as of 7:02 a.m. Wednesday. It was comforting to see him walk and see the back of his head." After this, the trail goes cold and Jeremiah has never been seen or heard from again. According to the Facebook page, Missing Jeremiah Foco, his friends and family haven't given up on their search for him. In January of 2016, a post appeared on the page reading, quote, "We continued to call his cell phone and the number has now been disconnected. We have also had his mail forwarded to the same friend that is storing his belongings. And unfortunately, the mail that is coming is the kind that's to be expected of a missing person." Jeremiah Foco was last seen on July 22, 2015, and is described as a white male with brown hair and brown eyes. He's known to go by the nickname Jay, and sports a shaved head and wears reading glasses. If you have any information, you're asked to contact the Seattle Police Department at 206-684-5007. Number 3. In 1979, Tok, a small town in eastern Alaska, had just 1,284 residents, and everyone who lived there believed they were living in a quiet and peaceful town. On August 20th, 1979, that belief was shattered when the skeletal remains of a man were found along a desolate road. The police were called to the scene and discovered that the skull had strands of long black hair and that the rest of the remains were haphazardly scattered along the road. During the initial investigation, police were able to determine that the remains had most likely been ravaged by animals and that they'd been there since 1978. They also found that the man was missing his left eye, as he wore a leather patch and had suffered various injuries, pointing them towards the verdict of homicide. His mandible was never recovered, making it difficult for artists to create a rendering at this time. As the man's true identity remained unknown, he was dubbed OneEyed Jack, a name that he still carries in 2020. The remains were found with a Mervyn's Mark II green and brown plaid jacket in a size large, blue jeans that contained 15 cents in Canadian currency, and a white and orange marble, a green and white plaid CPO shirt, a blue bandana, a white t-shirt, and blue socks. Investigators also found 2 packs of Winston brand cigarettes, 3 books of matches, and a broken yellow lead pencil. Then a huge and unexpected break in the case occurred. While in police custody in Nevada, Jesse Burt Bishop confessed to killing a hitchhiker in Alaska in 1978. Bishop told police that he'd picked up the hitchhiker he knew as John or Jack in Boise, Idaho. Originally, John or Jack wanted to go to Pendleton, Oregon, but after hearing that Bishop was headed for Alaska, he informed him that he would tag along. According to police, Bishop was able to provide details that matched up to OneEyed Jack. Bishop told them that John or Jack had long brown hair and a beard and was a smoker. He also said that the unidentified man had worked as a logger in Oregon and had an Oregon driver's license. Bishop claims that the motive boiled down to the fact that he had, quote, gotten on my nerves. He attacked the man before leaving him along a desolate road in Tok, Alaska. Law enforcement matched the details Bishop provided to OneEyed Jack and charged him with murder. Bishop pled guilty and spent the remainder of his days behind bars. Sadly, Bishop was never able to provide any further information on OneEyed Jack's identity, and has never made any further comments about the Oregon driver's license. As of this video, OneEyed Jack remains unidentified and is one of Alaska's most mysterious unsolved cases. If you have any information, you're asked to contact the Alaska Medical Examiner's Office on 907-334-2200, quoting case number 0300887. Number 2. The Marquis of Dai was an important civil servant during China's Han Dynasty, and along with his title and job, his wife, Qin Zui, was known as Lady Dai. The Marquis performed political duties throughout China, and when he passed away, he was buried in an elaborate tomb with 2 more tombs prepared for his wife and son. In 163 BC, Lady Dai passed away and was buried alongside her husband in a luxurious tomb fit for a queen. It wasn't until 1971 that the true scope of these tombs was discovered. Workers were digging to create space for an air raid shelter when they made the discovery of a lifetime. According to some sources, the workers were hit with a cool blast of air that emanated from deep inside the hole, and after investigating, they found the tombs of the Marquis of Dai, Lady Dai, and their son. Archaeologists and volunteers set about carefully exhuming the tombs, ensuring to be extra careful as they were estimated to be around 2,000 years old. Inside the tomb of Lady Dai, they found makeup, wooden figures, and other trinkets she would have needed for a comfortable afterlife. This wasn't the most shocking thing they found, however. Upon exhuming her body, they noticed that she was incredibly well preserved. Her body had been mummified in an unknown liquid, and archaeologists who moved her said that her skin felt like that of a living person. It was soft and kept its elasticity. They also found that she had her original hair on her head, as well as her eyelashes and eyebrows. A coroner found that Lady Dai had type A blood in her veins, as well as gallstones, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. After removing Lady Dai from her tomb, she began to decompose rapidly after being exposed to oxygen. The coroner was even able to determine that she had eaten melon seeds in the hour before her passing, and that this would have been her last meal. Scientists are still puzzled as to how Lady Dai was so well preserved for 2,000 years. Tests have been conducted on the mystery liquid, but there's been no solid conclusion to the mystery. Number 1. On February 19, 1971, 2 hitchhikers making their way across a bridge on Lake Panastis in Florida made a troubling discovery. As they looked down to the waters below, they saw the partially submerged body of a young woman. The 2 hitchhikers called for help, and within minutes, the state trooper was at the scene. Her body was removed from the scene and transported to the medical examiner's office. Investigators noted that there was little to no forensic evidence present at the scene, and that they believed she had been thrown over the bridge. The post-mortem revealed that her post-mortem index was between 2 weeks and 30 days, and that her cause of death had been homicide by ligature. Numerous appeals were aired, asking the public to come forward with information, but no one came to claim her. In place of her real name, she's been dubbed Little Miss Lake Panastis, and as of 2021, we are still no closer to uncovering the mystery. On November 30th, 2012, a TV show in Greece aired a segment about Little Miss Lake Panastis' case. Isotope testing of her remains had revealed that she was Greek, and that she'd been in the US for as little as 10 months to 1 year before her passing. And investigators believed that Greek viewers may hold the answer. During the television show, a woman called and asked to speak directly to the host. The woman at the end of the line is extremely distressed and upset about Little Miss Lake Panasofsky. She goes on to explain that Little Miss P looks a lot like a girl she knew called Konstantina, and that the two attended the DEME school between 1969 and 1970. These schools were created under the direction of the Marshall Plan, which aimed to rebuild Europe following the war. At these schools, girls would be taught English as well as how to cook, clean, and be a housewife. Once their training was finished, they would be sent to work as nannies or maids in the US and Australia. The caller told the host of the TV show that Konstantina had been sent to the US in 1970, while she was sent to Australia. The girls found it hard to keep in contact with one another, as they didn't even know where they were going until they got there. This call sparked a tidal wave of new information. This time, a man called in stating that his mother was a teacher at DEME school between 69 and 71. He sent in photographs to the television station, and when the segment was re-aired, they showed this photo alongside sketches of Little Miss P. Two women in particular were highlighted, and they bore an uncanny resemblance to her. Since the airing of the second show, little progress has been made, and now Little Miss P's case remains cold. Little Miss Lake Panasofsky is a Greek woman between the ages of 18 and 24, and she has brown hair and brown eyes. The medical examiner noted that she had undergone orthopedic surgery on her right ankle, more specifically the Watson-Jones technique. It's also theorized that she'd given birth at least once in her life. The medical examiner also found Harris lines on her bones, indicating that she had been malnourished as a child. Little Miss P underwent extensive dental work, including fillings and a porcelain crown. DNA and dentals are available for comparison, and anyone with information is urged to contact the Sumter County Sheriff's Office on 1352-569-1600, quoting case number 710291, or the District 5 Medical Examiner at 1352-326-5961, quoting case number A1071. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knots, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.